Thank you, Josh. Great to be here today. So I want to ground our meditation today in some beautiful teachings that come from a book that I just started reading this past week called Judaism for the World, Reflections on God, Life, and Love. And this book is by Rabbi Art Green, a great friend of the Institute, and a wonderful, informative teacher. And so I'm going to share some quotes from an essay that he has on Hanukkah called All About Light that I found very inspiring, and talk about a couple of places in our prayer book that can inform our practice today. So as you know, or as you may now you'll know in this moment, we have this beautiful text when we mention, specifically bring in Hanukkah, the acknowledgement of the holiday, the light, the miracles, and we'll talk more about that in a moment, in our Amidah, our standing prayer that we say 3 times a day in Jewish tradition. And we also have this paragraph is also part of the Birkat Hamazon, the blessing that we say after eating a meal. And so Hanukkah has an ability to, like all Jewish liturgy and prayer and mindfulness, to permeate every moment of our days and our rituals, including eating during the 8-day holiday. So I want to share one of the quotes that really jumped out at me from this essay is when Art says, "What isn't a miracle?" Right? Like when we look around our lives, we look around the world, what do we see that actually isn't a miracle? And I loved that question that he posed. And so I want to keep that in mind as we go through briefly through some of these texts in preparation for our own meditation today. So Adi, if I could ask you to screen share, that would be wonderful. Thank you. And scroll up just a little bit there so that people can see. Thank you, Adi, that's great. Yeah, so that you'll see there you have the title of his book and the title of the essay as well. So as I mentioned, in Birkat Hamazon, our blessing after meals, and also in the Amidah, our standing prayer that we have 3 times a day as an opportunity, as an invitation for us to engage with the divine, we have this beautiful paragraph, and I've given some excerpts here. Al Anisim v'al Purkan v'al Gevrot v'al Tshuvot. We thank you, divine presence in the world, for the miracles, for the redemption, for the mighty deeds, for the deliverances. And then the other section of this that I wanted to highlight and bring out today, you'll see, and it says, "And you, in your great compassion, stood by our ancestors in their time of pain, in their time of hardship. You delivered the mighty into the hands of the weak, the many into the hands of the few, defiled people into the hands of the undefiled, the wicked into the hands of the righteous." So we have many different themes, even in just these couple of excerpts that I've highlighted here. There's a very strong emphasis on winning the battle, of course, that we know is a large part of the historical experience of Hanukkah. We also have here an emphasis on miracles, nisim, al hanisim, that's how we say miracles in Hebrew, and nes would be the singular form. So there's this sense that a miracle is things that wouldn't happen naturally, things that defy logic. It's an overturning of what you would think would have happened according to the laws of physics or just sheer logic, right? It's an exception. But that's one type of miracle in Jewish tradition, but there's other types as well, right? So what are the things in our own lives on a personal level that we would consider miraculous? And certainly as we prepare to sit, that is a very critical thing for us, because the setting time aside for us to be sitting together is an opportunity to discover what the answer to that question might be. What are the things in our own lives that we could consider miraculous? Now, of course, when we first think of this question, as Art points out, we might think of the big things, right? I finished college. I finished that work project. I finished organizing my closet. I won an award, right? Some kind of public acknowledgement of what our society might view as success, right? But then, of course, we know there's the more intimate things, the relationships that we are in, the milestones that we've hit in those relationships, the personal breakthroughs that we've had in our own lives, and just the sheer miracle that we are still here after all these years. What a miracle that is, just literally to be alive for this breath, for this moment. And so then this is when Art says, if you approach this with an open and a grateful heart, you soon get to the question of what isn't a miracle? Isn't it all just a matter of perspective? So Adi, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see these quotes from Rabbi Art that I found so impactful for me in studying and preparing for today. If you approach the world with openness and gratitude, then pretty soon, everywhere you look, you see miracles, because it's really a matter of your own perspective. So he also in this essay brings up two beautiful concepts brought to us by the Spanish medieval mystic, Nachmanides. And he shares with us that Nachmanides teaches there are two types of miracles. There are hidden miracles and there are revealed miracles. So the revealed ones, those might be the obvious ones. Big redemption stories like the Exodus from Egypt, other large historical events in our consciousness where we can really easily point and say, that was amazing, that was a miracle, that shouldn't have happened, and yet it did. But then the second type of miracle that Nachmanides points out is that there are the hidden miracles, the miracles that you need to look for. And so I love this second quote from Art that says, the miracle is in the eye of the beholder. No one can perform a hidden miracle for you, right? That this is such an amazing thing. And what is happening may indeed be entirely natural and yet completely extraordinary. And so again, through our sitting, we have an opportunity to uncover what are the hidden miracles in our life. He also points out that the Hebrew word nes means miracle, but it truly means banner, right? So he has this beautiful, exuberant phrase where he says, the miracle that we experience in our life is a banner moment. It's one that sticks out, it rises above the rest, and it calls out to us, here I see the divine presence. Let me wave a banner, right? Love that. Let me wave a banner. There's a miracle going on here. I'm filled with gratitude. And so then when we scroll down, and thank you, Adi, for the last text, that the hidden miracles that Nachmanides talks about actually are mentioned in our Amidah, our standing prayer 3 times a day. Now, this text is not just for Hanukkah, it's for every single day of the year, morning, afternoon, and night. When we say modim anachnu lach, this is the plural form, similar to what we say in the morning when we say moda ani lefanecha, I'm so grateful, God, to wake up in the morning. When we come to the Amidah, to this prayer, we say, if we are thankful to you, we will give thanks to you, for your miracles of every day are with us, for your wonders and your goodness at all times, evening, morning, and noon. Your compassion is never withheld. You are the compassionate one. And so we see that these hidden miracles actually get full billing 3 times a day, year round, right? The public miracles, the revealed miracles that are associated with Hanukkah are beautiful too, but they They teach us to look for the hidden miracles each and every day, just like this is described here in the Amidah. And I love this text so much that several years ago, when I asked a wonderful artist by the name of Shosha, who's in Southern California, to create a talit, a prayer shawl for me, I actually asked her to paint on the atara, the part of the prayer shawl that goes around our neck, these words, Shebechol 8 Erev V'voker V'tzoharayim, right? In each and every time, these miracles are with us, in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon. And this is a time for me as a mother of now 3 grown daughters to think about each one of my children and what they are doing when I say these words. What is Jessie doing in the morning? What is Sarah doing in the afternoon? What is Talia doing at night? And to associate my gratitude through this text with what I'm experiencing or what I perceive that I'm experiencing in their lives and in my lives, my relationship with them at that moment. And for each one of us, that can be different. It can be an individual blessing. It can be something that we see in a relationship. But so beautiful. So Adi, thank you. You can stop the screen share now, and we'll take this text now into our sit. And again, the Kavanah, based on Rabbi Art Green's teachings and through the teachings of Nachmanides that he brought us, is to give ourselves some space to discover what are the hidden miracles that we can find in these next moments together. What can we uncover? What can we surface? What can we feel even deeper gratitude for than perhaps how we entered this space today? So I will bring us back together in about 10, 11 minutes or so with a little bit of singing. And I invite you now to find your seat, to deepen that breath down into your hips, and to uncover those hidden miracles for each one of us. With an open and a grateful heart, you soon get to the question, what isn't a miracle? Chag Chanukah Sameach, sending blessings to you all for a beautiful and light-filled Hanukkah.
Thank you so much, Susan. Looking forward to having a chance to talk about that and reflect on it in just a minute. And invite you to stick around, everybody to stick around to share comments, reflections, or questions. If you need to leave, we wish you Tzedchem l'shalom, to go in peace and come back with us again another day, tomorrow or any day after at 12:30 Eastern. We're going to now give everyone a chance to, those who are reciting Kaddish, to say Kaddish for a loved one or friends. If you want to put the name of the person who you're saying Kaddish for in the chat, you please feel welcome to do so and to unmute yourself and join me. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbi
Amen.
v'alma divra say v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon yomechon v'chayei b'chol beit Yisrael v'agala b'zman kariv v'mru
Amen.
Yehi
Yehi
shmei
Shmei Rabbi Mevorach Le'olam
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 Barach
Yishtabach
Ba'ar Man Yitzhar Le'Olam Yitzhar
Riku
Le'elam Kol Birchata
Shirata
Alman Be'alman
V'imru
Yehi Shmo Rabba Mishmaya Chaim Aleinu Be'al
Yisrael V'imru
Amen.
Amen. Say shalom b'mrama, uya asay shalom, aleinu v'al Yisrael, kol Yisrael tevel, v'imru
Amen.
Amen.
What I never did.
Great. All right, thank you so much. Susan, I invite everybody, if you've got questions or reflections that you want to share in the chat, please feel welcome to do so. Thank you for sharing that teaching of arts. It actually prompted me to remember, I did an interview with Art about that book a year ago or so, and I think Adi has the link for that in the chat. I'm sure some of you were here for that, and if you want to watch that again, please feel welcome. And he's got many other places, and most of all, if you haven't gotten the book, get the book. It's a good book to read. But it was such a beautiful reflection about just what isn't a miracle. What a great question. And I wonder, you mentioned a little bit about, you thought of your children, and it's interesting in my experience also, whenever I recite, the Amidah, and I come to that, all the miracles that are in our lives all the time, every day, my mind almost always goes to my kids first. But I wonder, in your practice, are there, if it's a part of your practice, how do you, where else do you find that you that your mind goes to, or are there places you try to bring your awareness to, rather than, of course, we're going to, those of us hopefully who are blessed with children are going to, imagine that's going to come up for a lot of people, but I wonder where else might you try to bring your attention or your focus, or where else does come up for you?
Sure. So for me today, especially, I am dealing with chronic pain. And so today during the meditation, I was really marveling at the fact that I'm not in pain at this moment, but woke up in pain, and thinking about all the parts of my body that aren't experiencing pain in this moment. I think Sylvia Boorstein has a way of saying it, like something about a toothache, I think, right? Like, nobody ever wakes up in the morning and says, oh, thank God I don't have a toothache, right? But when you have that toothache, you're miserable and the world's going to end, and it's painful, right? So for me to be able to sit, and I am sitting, and sitting is something that's been painful over the last couple of days. And so I was marveling at being able to sit here for this last half hour or 45 minutes. I don't know why the pain is capricious. It comes and goes. It's not something for anyone here to solve today. And so learning to live with that and be, really be grateful for, oh, my hips, oh, my legs, oh, my lower back. And so that's where I went with it today, Josh, because that's what I woke up with.
There's an interesting comment here from Susan that says, I thought of only one miracle. Everything else I thought of, I would label as a blessing. And I wonder I wonder what you think about that. Because and because we also have blessing practices, right? For all those parts of our body, right? We talk about in Birkot HaShachar, in the morning blessings, but I wonder what you think about that. Not to put you on the spot, but here you are.
And actually another great influence on this teaching today is I had the pleasure to study with Rabbi Elliot Dorff this past week when I was in a meeting with him, and he gave a Devar Torah. For those people who don't know him, he's the rector of the American Jewish University in Los Angeles, a wonderful teacher. He was one of my teachers when I attended the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies. And what he talked about, look, I think any kind of language you want to use is beautiful. It's all mindfulness and awareness. I think Hanukkah, with the mention of nisim, of miracles, gives us an opening, and also the link to that word appearing in, or synonyms for it, right? Appearing in the Amidah. So one of the things he talks about is this idea of some things are things that are interrupted from what might be normal, and that's why they're miraculous, right? And so I pointed that out in the beginning, right? But other things that just are recurring, who some of us might see as blessings, are also miraculous, right? Our breath is miraculous. So I think blessings are beautiful, and I think that people should gravitate towards the words that they want. But I think that we all find ourselves falling into habitual thinking, falling asleep, taking for granted the things that are recurring as being, banal or mundane, or just, well, of course that happens. Yeah. And I think that's why I was drawn to this in particular, because it kind of awakened me again to that miracle. Sorry to use that word again.
There's another question here. How do we say Moda Ani every morning instead of cursing what we don't have? Which is more of a, and a number of comments here also about, when you're saying you've got chronic pain, or you're dealing with loss or suffering, right? And how do we, and I wonder if you can speak, that's more of a, not just about the miracles piece, but really about, cultivating gratitude, and how do we do that from a place of pain that might be particularly acute?
Yeah, so here I would refer people, and I don't know if Adi can find this on, but I did a wonderful experience for me to do an IJS podcast with Rabbi Jonathan Leider on speaking of blessings, the morning blessing practice. And what happened in this podcast, which Jonathan invited me into to share, is what is actually happening from the moment I wake up in the morning, and with this traditional Hebrew blessings practice, but like, how does it manifest? Because Rambam, the great medieval sage, teaches us that the order should change depending on what we're experiencing, right? So you open up a prayer book and you see what's in the prayer book. But if your body is unfolding in a different way that particular day, then the order of those blessings is going to change. So, so for me, if I were to have recorded that session, that podcast with Jonathan today, it would have started out with having some kind of shooting nerve pain or a huge cramp in my left quad, but then finding that I could actually move into some kind of child's pose and breathe through it, right? And then after that, I could stand up and I could open my eyes and I could drink water. And so, I think for me, getting to the Moda Ani is it's simply looking for those things that I can do. What are the things that I can do, even though I woke up in a way I didn't want to, and I know it sounds so trite, but it's just a reminder for all of us, right? And so that podcast kind of walks you through one person's internal loop of like, how does this blessing practice actually play out? And I think it surprises people because they kind of picture people rolling out of bed and going, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher, it's not, for me, it's not like that. Each day is different because it depends on what is my body and what is my soul telling me when I wake up. So that's my experience of it.
I think there's something about, it's really important that I hope nobody experiences this, anyone here is saying, you should feel better, right? You should feel great and feel so good about the world. The only thing you should feel is how you're feeling, right? And obviously all of us hope, you and I and everyone hope that we're able to lessen the amount of suffering that we have. But this is one place where our Buddhist teachers can be really helpful. Like, there's going to be suffering, right? We know that, and we know there's going to be pain. And how we encounter that, I think, for me, one of the things as a parent that's been really so important, and one of the biggest lessons working with, teenage and older children now, is just accepting that, like, I can't ultimately make them happy. At a certain point, they have to, how we all decide and how we all can generate whatever response we have, with whatever tools we've got, is ultimately up to us. And the job that I have as a parent, and that I would say, like, I extend out in trying to just be a person, is I'm here to try to offer love and support and compassion and strength in doing that. But I also can't control, anybody else. And so that's one of those really, really hard things that just, I find, practice itself, I need to just remind myself of accepting the miracles and the beauty for what is, even and especially in the things that, like, I really don't have control over. So, or, the shorthand for that might be the serenity prayer, right? So.
Yeah, and how important, you mentioned to someone else in the chat that it is important to validate people's pain. Look, when I wake up in the morning and I say to my husband, I had a rough night, I don't want him to say, oh, well, count your blessings, right? You can have both, right? The validation of, yes, I'm going through this pain. I went through this pain. This is difficult for me. And the other as well. And Josh, I was just saying that, coming through Thanksgiving is a great exercise with, for those people who are with family or with extended groups of people, your friends circle, or perhaps even alone. It can be a great reminder that we are not in charge. How many examples of that?
Yeah, I think there was one other. I want to get to this question that Mir had towards the beginning. Can we be blessed to help bring miracles to the world? And if so, in what ways? I'll let you respond to that. I'm going to bite my tongue.
Gosh. This is where I'm drawn because of reading Art's book. When he does his wonderful summary of what he thinks Neo-Hasidic Judaism is, he reminds us that the core value of this, and he's very clear that this is a universal value. That's why the book is called Judaism for the World and not Judaism for the Jewish Community, is to make us into the most compassionate people that we can be, and to bring compassion into the world. And so I thought I will also woke up thinking about this today because the work week is starting again. And some of the relationships that I've been challenged with and really holding, negative emotion towards individuals and thinking, I've had this break. Now, how can I re-enter this relationship with compassion? That could be a miracle, right? Like in the sense of what it can do to renew this relationship, what it can feel like to the person on the other side. Like, how different is that relationship if I come into it with a sense of compassion instead of a sense of anger? So, this is a small personal example, but I believe that has a ripple effect out into the world. Am I going to drive differently when I approach this relationship? Am I going to react or interact with people in the grocery store through my mask, differently? And so this is the work, I think. And that's kind of one of the examples that came to mind for me today.
Yeah. We're approaching our end time, and just want to say, Justin has a question here: how to live with what's going on in the world and not to fear the future regarding dangerous situations, new variants, right, climate change, etc. And I'll offer. I'm trying to bring it up, but my browser is freezing. If you follow me on Facebook, I offered a little reflection on that on Sunday. You can look me up, Josh Fagelson, on Facebook, but. Just one thought about that is that there's a real multiplicity of the stories of Hanukkah, but there are so many different stories that we tell, right? About a cruse of oil, about a military victory, about rededicating the temple, about a Jewish civil war, etc. There's many versions of the story, and I wonder in that if perhaps the invitation for us is actually to disrupt our own tendency toward confirmation bias, and that we all, we especially we get in our heads, and our media does a really, really horrible job of this, of reinforcing, it's all doom and gloom and everything's going to be horrible and it's the worst possible outcome, and we go right there, and I think Hanukkah kind of comes and says, maybe, and maybe not, right? We really don't know. And to be open to that there's lots of ways that we can, that things might go. What we have control over in the moment is our own response and our own orientation, right? And can we, and maybe if we light a candle, in the window, or we see someone else's candle lit in the window, that prompts us to light a candle in the window, and that prompts someone else. And if enough of us do that, that we bring light into the darkness. So, all right, I'm going to end us there though, because we're past 15 and quarter after the hour. We could go on for a while. Susan, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. Wishing everybody a Chanukah Sameach. Thank you everybody also for the participation in the chat today, which was fantastic. I love to see how people were helping each other. And we'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same channel. Thanks everyone.